Hello, everybody. Welcome. Sorry, I was just getting Instagram up and ready as well. Hi, how are you, everybody? Welcome, Marion, already from California. Let me know if you can hear me okay, please, as per usual, especially after the last couple of times. Actually, last week I didn't have so many gremlins, did I? But maybe a few on Instagram. But the week before, no sound on YouTube, wasn't very helpful. Welcome. Thank you for joining me again for Thursday Tea Time Live. That one would be helpful, wouldn't it? There you go. See, I told you. And yeah, got another load of things, history related, obviously, and history travel related things that I think you'll be quite interested in. I'm streaming live on YouTube and Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, tap the screen, send me a heart. If you're on YouTube, then please give this video a thumbs up and write something in the comments. It does look like the chat is working, so I hope that is the case. And yeah, let me know whereabouts in the world are you? What time of the day is it? What time of the day do you is this for you? What time am I streaming to you? And also, if you are on YouTube, you can send me a super chat or a super sticker. That would be also fabulous. So yes, welcome everybody. Thursday Tea Time Live, as usual. I am just going to double check my microphone. Yeah, looks like it's working. Marion, 5 a.m. Marion. Good morning. Welcome to the day. It is 1 o'clock here in the UK. So, and Kirsty is in Oslo. A quick 15 minutes as well. I'm glad that you all are here with me, even if it's just for your 15 minutes. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, everyone, joining. So this is going to be fun. Looks like the sound's working. So we are going to get going. So yeah. Also, if you're on catch up on IGTV, YouTube, or you are listening on the podcast, thank you for catching up with me. I know quite a few of you do that after I've been live, so that is lovely. So this week I'm going to talk to you about Thornbury Castle. And if any of you've seen my Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that I was at Thornbury dressing up as a Tudor last week. So I'll tell you all about that. I've got 1 or 2 new videos coming up and out. I'll tell you what we've been talking. I'll tell you how I'm getting on with my archery, if you're interested, and also let you know that I'm not going to be here in August, but I'm doing lots before I go, so I'll let you know what's coming up, and also a little bit about next week's Thursday Tea Time Live, which is going to be a bit different because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be on location. So I will let you know what's happening with that. So first, I hope you're all settled in with a suitable beverage in hand. I'm actually on coffee today, although I'm nearly done with it. So coffee and water for me today. And I know some of you, it's a bit late or a bit early or a bit hot to be having hot drinks. So whatever it is that helps you relax, then I hope you've got it with you. So first of all, let me tell you about a new video because I've got it out today. It's only short. As you know, I do short videos on YouTube, which are they are introductions to things from history, but I try and take a slightly different angle perhaps than your normal sort of short, what you'd expect from short history videos. But today it's the legend of St. Swithin. So today, everyone should be looking out the window and hoping that it doesn't rain, because this is the legend that says if it rains today, it will be raining for the next 40 days and nights. And we don't want that, because here in the UK, at least, we are only just about cracking into summer with our weather. And at some point during the summer, I will be in a tent. So I really would hope that it's not going to rain for that long. So anyway, that video is up on YouTube. It's also available on the podcast. All of the videos are. And then coming up, and patrons, you'll have early access to these videos. I've got the Babington plot, the uncovering of the Babington plot, which happened on the 17th of July. I can tell you what date, not what year. Anyway, the video will be out soon and you can see. And the Babington plot is the one that hi Orlando, welcome. The Babington plot is the one that implicated Mary Queen of Scots in a plot to overthrow Elizabeth I. I mean, there were a couple of plots, but this is the one that they got enough evidence to kind of persuade Elizabeth that Mary was too difficult a prisoner to keep. There was an amount of entrapment in there. They knew that these letters were being sent, and they allowed it to continue, and they intercepted letters and sent others to try and get a reaction and get more evidence. But anyway, so that's one video that's coming out. And also I've got one about the first interaction of the English with the Spanish Armada. So before sort of the main events, if you like, there was the first interaction on the 21st of July. And it is my intention, although I'm away in August from everything, I'm taking a break, I will be scheduling videos for YouTube and on the podcast. And one of those will be an updated version of the Tilbury speech video, which you may or may not have already watched. That is Elizabeth I's famous, I may have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England too. I went and found the location as much as I could possibly pinpoint it at Tilbury. And I did the Tilbury speech video, which I put out, I don't know, about 2 months ago now. And then I found some more footage that I'd taken that I hadn't realised I'd got. So, which was a bit galling. So I am going to, my intention, like I say, is to redo that video and put it out on the 9th of August, which would coincide with the date that she delivered that famous speech. I can show you where we think she delivered it from. I mean, the original video is already up, so if you want to look at that on YouTube, obviously you can. It shows you enough to show you that there is nothing to indicate that Elizabeth was there. There was nothing to indicate that Elizabeth made such a monumental speech there. So, which I suppose if we put signs up everywhere where anything had ever happened, you wouldn't be able to move for them. Still, I think it's rather intriguing that such an important and memorable speech, it's not obvious. If you went and tried to find where this happened, hello everyone for joining me now. Thank you for joining. Yeah, if you went to try and find the location that Elizabeth I delivered this Tilbury speech, this famous speech, you would struggle. The only reason I was able to find it is I had a book written by Colin Brown, who is actually a journalist, and he I think it's called Glory and Bollocks. Sorry if anyone's got me on loudspeaker in their lunch hall. Anyway, he goes into the speech itself, but also the location, and he talks about the evidence for where the speech was given. So I went to physically try and work out where it was. Anyway, so there's my intention, is to put that video out with more footage than the one that I put out a couple of months ago, and that will be available on the 9th. So at the moment, what am I talking about? I've only just joined. So you're on the Thursday Tea Time Live. This is a bit of a history chat. Meander, I was going to say ramble. That might be putting myself down a bit. A little history chat meander where I talk about things that I've been doing or things that are coming up, and you can pose questions or put comments in, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. So I was just talking about a video that I intend to put out in August about Tilbury, where Elizabeth I made her famous Spanish Armada speech to the troops there that were there in case the Spanish managed to land. These were the ground troops that were going to obviously fight the Spanish. Obviously, we know they didn't land, but this speech has gone down in history. It's monumental. I mean, it was a fabulous speech. And in the video, I go into I do the speech for you. I read it for you, but also that there are a number of versions, very similar. And it could be that she delivered it a few times, or it could be she delivered it and someone else delivered it on. There's a big mass of people. And if you look at the video, or if you look at the new one that I'll be putting out, you'll see that where it was delivered is in the middle of nowhere, sort of thing, on a hill. You've got the estuary really close, so you can imagine it's very windy. So yeah, hence why it probably wasn't only delivered once. History Heroes, thank you for joining. Yes, I'd love you to join more. I like your logo. That's a very nice logo. So that's one video. But like I say, even though I won't be doing the history, these live chats in August, because I'm taking August off, I will be posting some of the YouTube snippets, I call them, when they're on my to-do list. They're my British history snippets that I'm doing. Because like they're not always they're not very long, but they hopefully introduce you to some interesting bits of history that you didn't know, and or a slightly different angle on something that you thought you did know about. So hopefully that is the case. So what should we talk about next? Well, it's just a reminder that we're doing Thursday Tea Time History Chat Live. And if you are watching on YouTube, please feel free to, anywhere actually. On YouTube, you can send me a super chat or a super sticker. They're quite fun. If you're a member on YouTube, you can use your little custom emojis. And if you're watching on IGTV, tap the screen and send me a heart. That'd be nice. And obviously you can comment wherever you are and ask me questions or comment on what we're talking about. So shall I slow down a bit? Next, what we've been talking about on Clubhouse. And the reason I go through this every week is because they are live chats on Clubhouse. So if any of you aren't on there already, you can have live chats. They're not recorded, or at least not at the moment. And and anyone can come up on stage in our chats anyway. Anyone can come up on stage and contribute to the conversation, ask questions. So it's really interactive. And so as a result of that, we get really interesting conversations going. Obviously, we set a topic. We have set times as well throughout the week that we that we have conversations. Our history half-hour rooms were Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. UK time. But history half-hour is a bit misleading now, because I think Friday, our history half-hour was well over an hour. We were talking about British quirks. So we all had things that we thought were quirky about ourselves, about the British culture, and people contributed as well. It was very funny, actually, very funny, and lots of people who aren't British but obviously love our culture or have links with family or something. Love our sense of humour, actually, which was nice. And I think British people, well, I can categorise all of the British quirks into food. Very funny about our food, or very, very. Oh, Stu was there. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Food, banter, self-deprecation, and double entendres. That's pretty much British culture summarized in 4 points. But yeah, so our history half hour was well over an hour, but it was funny. I'm glad everyone who joined seemed to have really enjoyed it. So thank you for joining us. And it was a little bit like it was a little bit more like our History After Dark room, which we do every Wednesday at 8:15 on an evening, because we sort of, I don't know, we let rip a bit, and it was a lot of fun. So that was last Friday. Monday we went back to serious issues, and we talked about, it was a suggestion by someone. We're always interested for suggestions if people want to suggest rooms, to suggest topics. And it was a suggestion by Ali, and she asked, why did we think that there was never a meeting between Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth I? So we spent Monday's room discussing that, and I think that was about an hour as well. So our history half hours, yes, it's definitely a misleading title now, but it's good discussion. Sorry, I needed to pause for breath there and a drink. And that was really interesting conversation. I mean, I learn. I'm in there, and I'm learning all the time. I love it when people put other viewpoints up as well. You know, nothing's silly. Nothing's a silly suggestion, because at the end of the day, we're dealing most of the time with human behaviour, aren't we? When we're talking about history, and people's motivations are really difficult to, as an example, motivations are really difficult to decipher. I guarantee you know people in your life now who you're not quite sure how they feel about something or why they feel it that way. And that is going to be exactly the same when we're looking at figures in history. There is a temptation that because things have happened in the past, that we can interpret it and know exactly what was going on there. And I think it's more helpful to keep our minds open, because people from the past are exactly the same as people today. They have varying motivations. Hi, Iona, thank you for joining. They keep them secret. They don't understand them themselves, you know. So there's lots going on. So anyway, if you do join us on Clubhouse and you're worried about coming up and saying something stupid, don't. Honestly, don't. It is it's a very in the modern term, safe place to come and give your opinion. There is now actually a direct message function in Clubhouse as of today. So if you're really nervous and you don't want to come up and speak, and that's fair enough, because speaking in public, I know you can't see you, but it can be nerve-wracking. You can now direct message us. So I'm only using that when I'm on a room. But if you want to message me while I'm doing a room, you are more than welcome. So we talked about why Mary, Queen of Scots, and Elizabeth I never met. Why did we think that was? I don't know if any of you have any thoughts on this, but of course, Mary, Queen of Scots, fled to England after she lost the Battle of Carberry Hill, after she'd escaped from Loch Leven. She was forced to depose, to give up her throne in favour of her baby son at the time. She lost the Battle of Carberry Hill. This is a very truncated version. And she fled to England. The intention being to get Elizabeth's support, get troops, get back up to Scotland and take back her throne. But she ended up being incarcerated in England for 20 years before being executed at Fotheringay. So that is a long time for cousins of the same, that obviously the same bloodline, those wouldn't be cousins, but they're both descendants of Henry VII, Mary Queen of Scots via Henry VII's eldest daughter, Margaret, who'd gone up and married James IV of Scotland, and obviously Elizabeth, the daughter of Henry VIII. So, they're queens on the same landmass, they're kin, they're in the same country for 20 years, and they don't meet. Despite that film saying they do. I think the latest film that has them meeting in some laundry, I'm not sure whether it was supposed to be a dream scene or just sort of making the nod to the fact that just because we don't have evidence that it happened doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. Does that make sense? So until that piece of paper or something turns up that says, actually, on this date, we have got records that such and such a house was prepared for a meeting between Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth I. Until we have that, we are going to assume that they never met. Hi, Rachel in Taunton. She's managed to join. Rachel is a member on YouTube, so you'll see she uses her custom teacup emojis, which I enjoy seeing. So Mary Queen of Scots, Elizabeth I. Why didn't they meet? So we were discussing it. It's complex, but I think it boils down to a few things. Mary Queen of Scots was a political hot potato. Nobody wanted her physically. France weren't interested. Scotland weren't interested. Spain was interested. They didn't want her, but they did want her as a battering ram for Elizabeth, or what am I trying to say? A negotiation chip. That's not the right mix my metaphors. But she was dangerous to be associated with for Elizabeth. Elizabeth, remembering, she increasingly was identifying herself as the Virgin Queen, married to her country, not you can trust her. She's not sharing her power. She's not going to marry a foreign prince. She's not going to marry someone below her station. She is going to be in charge. You can trust her. She is the mother of the nation. In contrast, Mary, 3 times married, implicated in the murder of her second husband, the thoughts were that her third husband had murdered her second husband. So, Mary was, to show solidarity with Mary in any way, to be associated with Mary could be dangerous for Elizabeth. So this is how the discussion went. And this is why we were coming to this sort of conclusion that it was just too difficult. Then you have other layers on top. Again, remember, we're talking about human beings here, complex, in some ways, extremely simple in others. There was put forward the fact that maybe Elizabeth was just a bit too vain to meet the beautiful Mary Queen of Scots. Maybe she would feel a little, I don't know, maybe that would take what she felt about her down a notch, herself down a notch or two. Welcome, Colleen. Thank you for joining from California. Exciting. That must be early where you are as well then. So Marion and Colleen both joining from California. So it's 5:30 in the morning. Good morning. So we have the fact that Mary is a political hot potato. Elizabeth doesn't want to be associated with her. She probably doesn't want to be compared on beauty, perhaps because the stories of Mary being beautiful but being charismatic, and a real magnet for personality wise, and then the other thing was, what was the other thing? There's the humanizing. If she never meets Mary, if Elizabeth never meets Mary, she doesn't have to think of her as 100% human being. Does that make sense? She can separate herself somewhat from Mary the concept, Mary the rival queen, blood, Tudor blood, claim to the throne, Catholic. She can remove herself from the concept of Mary and the person who is Mary. So for all those reasons, we thought, and probably more that we'd not thought about, Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots didn't meet. But let me know what you think, if that makes sense. If that's made you think, or you totally disagree, that's also fine. That's absolutely fine. So that was Monday, and then last night. So thank you, everyone. Sorry, I can see people are joining. Hi, welcome, Thursday Tea Time Live. We're meandering through some history chat. We've talked about British quirks a little bit, and Elizabeth I's Tilbury speech and where that was, and we've just finished talking about Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth I and why in 20 years of being in the same country they'd never met. But so last night in the History After Dark room, we were discussing favourite murders. No, I hope you don't think bad of me. I didn't title the room. Shall I distance myself from it now? No, it was a good conversation though. It was a fun conversation, and whether we like it or not, murder is a fascination. People are fascinated. It's fiction. People, who used to watch in the UK Crime Watch? I don't know if it's still on, which ostensibly was, to share crimes that had been unsolved with the public to try and get help. Anyway, there is a draw there. Iona says, completely agree. Definitely easier for them mentally to just think of them as a name as opposed to an actual person and relative. Yeah, well, exactly. Favourite murders though. So I chose. I thought, how on earth do you pick a murder? I'll come back to. Sorry, Marion. I will come back to that in a second. Yes. So I thought, right, well, I'm going to go for somebody who we already know isn't maybe a savoury character. So I decided to look to ancient Rome and some emperors, and I picked on Emperor Nero, who, I love my Roman history as well. It's an area I need to get more into, but Rome and Britain are linked. Obviously we were part of the Roman Empire. You can see that in our landscape, in our road system, in our laws, in our language. And then obviously with the rise of the church, which then becoming the Roman Catholic Church as opposed to the Church in England, and all the other denominations that came after that, we are linked. We are inextricably, is that the right word? Linked. So I love Roman history. Anyway, so I looked back to Roman emperors. I thought there's got to be one in there that got murdered, but no one's going to be too bothered. And I settled on Emperor Nero. Emperor Nero is the guy who he had his mother put to death. He became emperor when he was 16. So still quite under the influence of his mother, and he basically wanted rid. But instead of sort of just managing the relationship, maybe this wasn't the way, he had her killed. He also had his first wife murdered in order to marry his second, and a nice little present he sent the head of the first wife to the second to say, I am now free to marry you. Interesting. Do you want to know how the second marriage ended? He kicked her in the belly when she was pregnant and she died. So, this man is not going to be one that anyone is too concerned about how they died. So I picked on him. And it turned out that he tried to commit suicide because he had been told that he was about to be arrested, that the Senate was sending a squadron, whatever you would call them, out to arrest him, and he was going to be taken to the Forum in Rome and beaten to death. That was his sentence. We're talking about the Emperor Nero for anybody who's just joined, because last night in Clubhouse we were talking about favourite murders, which is a very odd title, I know, but it was a good room. And so Emperor Nero, nasty piece of work. The Senate decides to arrest him. He's told by a courier that rushes there and says they're going to arrest you and they're going to put you to death. Turns out that wasn't true, but he didn't know that. So he decides the best course of action is to commit suicide. Now, the story goes, and like I say, I need to verify this, and actually I'm going to the British Museum. They have a Nero exhibition on until mid-October, I think, so I will be going there because I'm fascinated, as you can tell. But apparently he had his one of his followers, loyal followers. He kind of went, I don't know how to do it. Can you do it? Can you show me how to commit suicide? So this loyal follower did. Colleen, I would come back to that. Did he fiddle while Rome burnt? He is the emperor who fiddled, as in fiddled on a harp, actually, as opposed to like something like a violin, apparently a harp, while Rome burned. Yes, apparently he did. According to Mary Beard, I think. So I read something about that yesterday. Although it's not for certain, but then again, this happened 2,000 years ago. So fair play. But we don't know exactly what happened. So he gets his loyal follower to show him how to commit suicide, and then bottles it again and doesn't do it. And then he hears the hooves of the horses of the men coming to arrest him, and decides, right, I really better get on with this. And so he gets his private secretary, and again, another amazingly loyal person. Turns out you don't need to be a good person to have a loyal following. And he got him to, he couldn't even do suicide himself. He had to get a servant to do it. So he got his private secretary to guide the knife. So that's how, so I don't know whether that is a murder or an assisted suicide or just really odd. But anyway, that's how Emperor Nero apparently died. He bled to death after that really weird way of, committed suicide. Maybe he should have just taken the beating. In fact, they weren't even intending to beat him because he was the last of the Caesar something else bloodline. So in fact, they didn't really want to kill him because they were also aware they would have been bringing to the end a very long-standing dynasty. Not just that, he wasn't popular with the Senate, the nobility, the ruling classes in Rome, but actually with the lower classes and the slave classes, he was popular. So so they weren't actually intending to kill him, but there you go. So that was my favourite, in inverted commas, murder in Clubhouse History After Dark room last night. But do join us for History After Dark. Don't eat. Don't have small children around if you've got us on speaker. Someone had us on speaker in a pub garden a few weeks ago. I can't remember what we were talking about. Luckily, everyone seemed to find it funny, but that amused me afterwards that I didn't know we'd been speaking to a whole pub garden of people. But yes, please do join us for History After Dark. It is a fun room. Join us for any of the rooms. If you're on my newsletter list, I send a newsletter every Sunday. It's just a bit of a roundup of what I've been up to, and it has links to all of the history videos, including this. So if you've missed it at all, then the link would be there. It's free. You just have to put up with me writing to you once a week, hopefully with things that are interesting anyway. And on there you will see what Clubhouse rooms we've got coming up, if I know. Sometimes we do a mystery room where we kind of decide what to do at the time. So Marion asked, were there any in Elizabeth's cabinet that would not have wanted her to meet Mary? All of them. Certainly Cecil didn't want her to. Was it Cecil and Walsingham? Was it Walsingham who was at the Bartholomew? What am I trying to say? The riots that happened in France, where all the Protestants were murdered. Essentially, there was supposed to be a wedding, and the Catholics used it as a ruse to. And it was just slaughter. It was absolute slaughter. And he was there, and he sheltered people, and he was obviously at risk himself. And then he had a lifelong hatred of Catholics and Mary as a figurehead for Catholics, and a figurehead who was in direct opposition to his own queen. So they didn't want her to meet. I don't think they wanted Elizabeth to meet Mary. No, for all the reasons actually that we've gone through. You want to be associated with someone like that, and didn't want Elizabeth to grow any kind of affection for Mary. It was difficult enough to get her to sign the death warrant as it was. Iona, sorry if you've already joined, but how do you join the History After Dark sessions? So if you go onto Clubhouse, if you need a link to Clubhouse, then again, if you sign up to my newsletter, I send out a fresh link every week. She says, thinking, I hope I remember to do that. And when you're on Clubhouse, come and find me. My tag is at Philippa B. So Philippa is with one L and two P's. So PHILIPPA-B. That is my handle. If you follow me, then on my profile, you will see the next room. You will also see at the very bottom 2 clubs that I'm responsible for. The Tudor History Club. If you click on that, you can join it, and the History and Culture Club. If you click on that, you can join it. And within those clubs, you can see all the rooms that we have coming up. And the History After Dark room is in the History and Culture Club. So if you follow me, you'll see that I'm speaking and you can come into the room. But even if you're not following me, if you follow the club, I think you can start now getting notifications of the rooms that are coming up. So it'd be lovely to see you in there. It is fun. It is fun. I think history should be fun because I think life should be fun. And it's not unless you make it. I mean, come on, how many things do we gets thrown at us? And yeah, you have to make a choice, don't you? Sometimes it's more difficult than others, but if we try and have fun, and that's what we're hoping to provide as well, you know, a bit of respite from some of the other stuff that's going on still. So what have we got coming up? Gail Hume, who's British Sovereigns and Royals on Facebook. She does a room every Thursday night. So if you're interested well, she does a lot of she does a lot of cool rooms of all periods. But tonight, because it's already Thursday, she's talking about the babies that Anne Boleyn lost and the impact that had on Anne herself and on her situation as well. So if you're interested in that, Colleen says she loves Clubhouse. It's so funny when the British curse, which we don't do so much in. Well, we try not to do that so much in the Mondays and Fridays and Sunday rooms, but on a Wednesday night, like I said, we let rip. Just don't have us on loudspeaker. Like I say, if you've got young children around, we're not mad. I don't think we go mad. But anyway, we don't check ourselves as much as normal, and all well placed and intelligently placed swear words. Friday, I'm not going to be there because I'm in a secret historic location, which I will share with you after the fact. And they're talking about how did you get into history, and particularly into Tudor history. And that's going to be Kat Marchant is doing that with Sarah Morris. It's normally the 4 of us, so Kat, Sarah, Catherine Brooks, who's the Tudor tracker, and myself. But Catherine and myself are in different locations over in the country, so we can't join tomorrow. But that should be quite an interesting discussion, and they're going to share with everybody how they got into history. I'm sad to be missing that one because I'm interested to know how people got into history, because it seems typically like it's something that people get into as they get older. Did you find that, or did you have an interest in it from the get-go? You know, or is it something that you kind of had an interest in and it went away and then you got back into it? Because I did like it at school, Right, should I tell you? This is stupid. So at English schools, or yeah, I don't know what they do in Scotland or Wales. When you are in, so when you're about 12 or 13, you get to choose what subjects you're going to do for your main school exams, which are called GCSEs. And when I was at school, you got to choose. Some of them you didn't get to choose, so you still had to do your science and your maths and your English, but you could choose your humanities and your languages. I had a friend who I was always being compared to. So I based my options for these rather important exams on taking the opposite subject to whatever she took. She took history, so I took geography. So I, so even though I enjoyed history, so yeah, lesson to your kids: don't do that, because that's what I did. Mind you, it hasn't stopped me getting into. It hasn't stopped me getting this far, has it? But the interest in history for me started because I actually did a degree in psychology, so hence why I'm so keen on talking about the personal aspects of history. How I think it's important to remember that we don't know everyone's inner thoughts. Lots of people don't know their own inner thoughts. So when we're looking back in history, have an open mind to things that were going on. Rachel says, as I got older, I did history, but never covered world wars. It was Egyptians and never royals. It's interesting. I think you get a particular period or person. I started with Elizabeth I. That's how I got into history. I was actually looking for simplified. I was looking for a female role model, somebody strong who'd been in position of power. And I was so that's how I got into her. And then to understand her story, I realized I had to go back and wider, and then it just carried on from there. And then, the themes running through time are important. Oak Lane, I've always known about Henry VIII, but I didn't get into it until I found the White Queen series. I fell down the rabbit hole and I've been stuck in ever since. So we've talked a lot actually on Clubhouse about historical drama and how useful it is for getting people interested in history. And you don't have to worry about the accuracy. It's for fun, and it does help. And I think as well, I suppose I'd be lying if I said it didn't annoy me when someone said, but so-and-so said this to so-and-so, Catherine of Aragon said, and it's something they've got to script it. They've got to script it. Jenna. Oh, Jenna, hi. Sorry, I've just now I know who Oak Lane Homestead is. Hi, Jenna. Jenna joins for Clubhouse quite often. Yeah, so historical drama, it's really useful for getting people interested, like I say. And yes, some people do genuinely take it as read, that it's an exact representation of what happened. But of course, they're trying to give a story, which is why you end up with things like really compressed timelines, because what they're trying to get over is the gist of the story. You're not watching a documentary. And actually, obviously not to the same extent, but documentaries in a way are also storytelling, because there's a lot of conjecture, a lot of interpreting the evidence, interpreting behaviours. Obviously you realise by now, but behaviours are a point that I like to I don't know, that I'm interested in. Individual and group behaviours actually as well. So anyway, that's how I got into history and where that went. Sunday, I'm back. I'm with Sarah Morris and Deb Royal, and we are, I think it is 4 o'clock. Oh, it's 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, which means that I'm going to have to pause the British Grand Prix. So no one tell me on that room what's happening. Mind you, if you're interested in the F1, you probably won't be joining the room, but we are heading to the Mary Rose on Sunday. Now, any of you who are in my Patreon, so I have a club, a British History Club on Patreon, if any of you know Patreon, and you can find it patreon.com/British History. Now, I began it March. I can't remember now. This year, anyway, earlier this year. And one of the first large talks, so I'll do a quarterly big event. And the first one was on the Mary Rose, the story of the Mary Rose and what happened to her and what she can tell us about Tudor life and what it was like as specifically about being a Tudor sailor, but how we can kind of use some of that as evidence as to how the Tudors lived as well. Tudors as in normal Tudors as opposed to the royal Tudors. I did that as a live stream. So I went in to check that today to be able to tell my patrons, oh, the Mary Rose, remember, I did that back in this time, and you can rewatch it and realize that the link isn't working. So any of my patrons, what I'm going to do is reschedule that for a week. I do 3 posts a month because they're quite meaty. And so then we have a break. So what I've done is I've scheduled that to reschedule, if you like, that in one of the weeks off, in inverted commas. So, and if you're not part of my Patreon and you would like to be, please go and have a look. There's 5 tiers to choose from, so you can choose the one that suits you best. And we cover all sorts, like I say, it's all British history, so with quite a smattering of Tudors, to be fair. So there you go. So anyway, thank you. If you've just joined, this is Thursday Tea Time Live History Chat, where we meander through history based on things I've been up to, questions you ask, and history in the news, if anyone's seen anything, and also any history chats that we've been having on Clubhouse and on here. So as you will maybe know, maybe not, the last few weeks I have been out and about, which feels great because any of you who've been with me for a while know that I travel all the time. Well, it looks like I travel all the time to historical locations around the country. Sometimes that's because I'm taking groups. Sometimes it's because I'm blogging or vlogging, whatever. So lockdown has been a total shackling of me. Of everyone, I realise. But hi, James in Norwich, welcome. So yeah, lockdown, as it's eased, I've been getting out and about again. So over the last few weeks, if you follow my Instagram, or even if you don't, go and check it out, you'll see I've been to Kenilworth, but not to the castle. I have been to the castle, but that wasn't where I was going. Sarah and I went to the site of the Palace of Plaisance, which was the fun part of the castle. You had the castle, which is very much fortified fortress, and there was a big lake, and the Palace of Plaisance was on the other side of the lake, and it was a more private residence for the king. Anyway, so there's nothing left of it other than the plateau where it was, and you can see where it had a moat. In fact, it had a double moat, I think, but you can see where the inner moat was. So I went there. I've been to Bosworth Battlefield, met Catherine Brooks, the Tudor tracker there, St Paul's. And St Paul's, actually, I did a live walk around for patrons. So that's the kind of thing patrons that get, as well as early access to videos from YouTube and blogs that aren't available elsewhere. And now that I'm getting out and about more, I'm going to be doing lives from locations as more of a regular occurrence. So that should be fun. We've also been to Tutbury Castle. We were talking about Mary Queen of Scots earlier. That was a place where Mary was held on 4 occasions in conditions that gradually became worse and worse. I say gradually, probably not that gradually. It was quite clear from how she was kept that Elizabeth might not have wanted to kill her, but she certainly did want her dead. So that was Tutbury Castle. It was all misty and rainy, which was very atmospheric. But after a little while, like, it's fine. I was there. I was only. It's not huge. It was a huge castle, slighted by Oliver Cromwell. But still, absolutely fascinating history. And Goodrich Castle, which again you'll see on on my Instagram. I've got a video on a reel, and I've got some photographs, and patrons, you can see some extra photographs as well, which I took while I was there. So I feel like, yes, really sort of got out and about. And then this weekend, I got to dress up as a Tudor queen at Thornbury Castle. Again, if you have a look on my Instagram, you can see me dressed up. So my Instagram, by the way, anyone who's not watching me on Instagram, who's watching me on YouTube or listening on the podcast, it's British History Tours with an underscore in between each word. So British_history_tours. And you can check me out in Tudor Queen costume, which is so much fun. And actually, Thornbury Castle is only, it's about an hour and 20 away from me, and I hadn't been. It's a hotel now, so it's not a publicly open attraction. Again, another castle which is huge in footprint. It was built by the third Duke of Buckingham. If any of you have watched the Tudors, the one who famously, you remember in the first series, he was put to death. Colleen, I always loved British history, picked up The Fall of Anne Boleyn 3 years ago. Yeah, and I was hooked. Anne Boleyn's story hooks a lot of people into history, I think, which is good, because it was a tragedy, and it should be recognised for exactly what it is, or was. You know, when people wanted people out of the way, then yeah, it would result in an execution. It still happens. It's happened all the way through history, and it will still happen. So I don't know. I think there's lessons to be learned all the way through. But anyway, sorry, I was saying about going to Thornbury Castle. So Thornbury Castle, again, some of you may have heard of it if you're into Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII. They stayed there for 10 days during their summer progress of 1535, and in fact, next year with Sarah in September, we're going to have an on progress with Anne Boleyn tour, which will take in Thornbury Castle. This is the plan at the moment. I'm putting it together. So we're going to follow part of the Gloucestershire leg of that 1535 summer progress. A happy time for Anne. She conceived at some point during this summer progress. They were getting along. They were having fun together. Obviously, within a year, she would be executed. Just shows the rapidity of what happened to her, the downfall. But Thornbury Castle is very it's part ruin. Quite a lot of it is in ruin, and then you've got the bit that's now a hotel, which they've the owners have invested loads of money in as well. So it's really well kept. So it's wonderful. So anyway, so Thornbury Castle was added to my list. Again, if you check out my Instagram or Facebook, then you can see some photographs of Thornbury. If you're interested in knowing about the tours, then again, if you on Instagram, if you follow the link in my bio, you can sign up to get the newsletter, so you get news about tours before they go on general sale, by the way, as well, so you get early access. And if you're on YouTube, at the top of the comments, I've put a link into the newsletter there. It's free. So like I say, I only write out once a week usually, unless there is news on tours, of course, with links to the videos that I've done and some updates and Clubhouse updates as well, actually. So that's where I've been so far. Now, I did say I'm away in August. I'm not going to be around. I might do some spontaneous lives on Instagram if I'm somewhere where I've got signal. There's plenty of interesting places where I'm going, but signal might be an issue. So we shall see. I won't make any promises because I don't like to break them. But I will be going before I do that, before I have August off, in no particular order. I'm going to Hampton Court Palace, so I will bring you some stuff from there. I'm going to go and see the Golden Glory exhibition, which is on at the moment, because last year, 2020, I'm getting mixed up with my years now, was the 500th anniversary of, am I right? Yeah, of the Field of Cloth of Gold. This summit between Henry VIII and Francis I of France, over in France, and obviously famous. And there was a massive not just an exhibition. They were going to have jousting, and they were going to have all sorts set up at Hampton Court Palace. And of course, COVID put pay to that, so they have done a Gold and Glory exhibition this year, but it finishes, I think, early September. So anyway, I'm going to be going there before I go away in August. I'm also heading to the British Museum. They've got a exhibition on about Thomas Becket. So the Saint Becket, the victim of the "Will no one rid me of this troublesome prince" line. Not prince, troublesome priest. Even I was close. He was murdered on the altar steps at, there weren't actually altar steps when you go. Anyway, at Canterbury Cathedral, and so I'm going to go down to the British Museum, and I'll share with you some of that. And I'm also going to head to Ludlow Castle as well. So I've got at least 3 locations to fit in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that. So I will, keep an eye out. I will obviously be sharing photos and things like that. So there will be lots still to see. So thank you for joining me. Anyone who's just joined, this is Thursday Tea Time Live. We've been going for 56 minutes. So thank you for those who have stayed with me all this time. I know some people are on their lunch break, or some people are getting ready for work, and you have to come in and out. So thank you so much, though. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. I hope you find the history topics interesting. Feel free, obviously, to comment or ask questions. I will answer where I can. It would be lovely to see some of you over on my Patreon. I know some of you already are there. Like I say, there's 5 tiers to choose from, so you can get whichever one suits you best. Just to give you an idea, Goodrich Castle, like I say, we've done some bonus pictures on there. So I've shared stuff on Instagram, but the patrons have had more, and I'm going to start doing that more sort of behind the scenes now that I am back travelling around historic locations. This month we did a historian interview with Claire Ridgway about Lady Jane Grey, or Queen Jane. We should say, if you've seen that interview, you will know the background to that. And I've got so like every quarter I do a bigger event, and this quarter, so July is our second quarter, and it's going to be the history of Westminster and Whitehall. So Westminster, as you'll know, you've got Westminster Abbey, you've got the House of Parliament, still known as Westminster Palace, and then you've got Whitehall, which is the road that goes from Westminster up to Trafalgar Square, but it gets its name from Whitehall Palace, which you'll know from the Tudors. So this was the palace that Henry and Anne, they expanded York Place, which was a Wolsey residence. He didn't own it. That was part of his being the Bishop of York, Archbishop of York. So technically Henry shouldn't have taken that, but technically, did Henry ever care about that? And they built this palace, and it became known colloquially as Whitehall. Now that name has stuck. So and now it's still there. It's not just the road; it's the area, but it's also the just a term for the British government, or so it's come out of Whitehall. Things have been coming out of Whitehall. So I'm going to do a quarterly. So, like I say, the quarterly event is on the history of Westminster and Whitehall. How come Westminster, became a seat of ecclesiastical and political power? How that relates to the Whitehall area, and some of the history of the place since as well. So that will be quite fun. I can see Hampton Court Tour Guide has joined. I will be down at Hampton Court. I was just saying to see the Gold and Glory exhibition really soon. I don't say exactly when I go places in advance, because it's not that sensible in terms of safety, but I will be down very, very soon. And I was going to tell you how I was getting on with my archery, wasn't I? So anyone who doesn't know, I've taken up archery in the last couple of weeks. So I feel like that's a history-based hobby. I think my bow at the moment is something like 20 pounds weight, and I think the Mary Rose. So I think the archers that would have been on the Mary Rose. I was talking about the Mary Rose earlier. Did they pull something like 60 pounds? I might have got that wrong, but anyway, a lot. So I went to archery Tuesday night. I went feeling very buoyant because the Thursday before I was getting lots of golds. So I was getting lots in the middle of the target. And they moved the boss, so the target, out from 10 yards to 20 yards, and it all went wrong. So, I mean, I have the worst eyesight as well. I genuinely do have bad eyesight. But I don't know. I'm making excuses now, but I'm back tonight, so I will practice again, and I'm sure I will crack it, because 20 yards isn't that far. But there's some, the club are also there while we're doing our lessons, and people have got 80 yards out. I mean, it's incredible. How they even see the boss is unbelievable. Jenna thinks the longbow was 180 pounds. Possibly. I mean, goodness. I tell you what, though, the arrows, even just on because people still use longbows now. You get a choice of, like, you can get all sorts of bows, but the arrows really go a long way. You can see how absolutely deadly they were. I mean, that sounds obvious, but when you see them in action and you hear the thud of them going into the boss, it's really quite amazing. But yeah, so that's my new hobby. It's going okay. It's going well. Yeah, and I like it that it's got a bit of a history twist to it. Doug says it was 90 to 110 on the Mary Rose, according to something. I don't know what the BCC doc is, but anyway, a lot more than what I'm doing. I couldn't imagine their arms must have been massive. Yes, but also, I mean, you're pushing with one and you're pulling with another. So were they out, did they have one side bigger than the other? Did they do BBC? I was gonna say, like, how would you balance that out? Yeah. So their arms, it's a lot of the shoulder, actually, and your scapula. So you don't see the scapula at the back. It's like, Orlando has to go. So bye. I'll see you next week. Next week, by the way, I'm going to be only on IGTV because I'm on location. So I'm going to try for the same time. It might be slightly different because I'm like I say, on location. I was going to tell you about the tours, but I'll tell you about those another time. But I've already talked about a couple of things that are going to be in the tours from now on. Dressing up as a Tudor is just too much fun to leave out. We'll be heading off to Hever Castle on, I think, all of the tours now, and we eat in the Great Hall at Hever, and there will be opportunity to dress up as a Tudor. Archery, I'd love to get in there, but we'll see. Falconry as well. There's a picture on my Instagram from Sunday of an owl. I know it's an owl, it's not a falcon, but the falconer who was there had peregrine falcons and something else. I'm not very into my birds at demo, but you could hold the birds as well. It was fabulous. So I'm really keen to get that incorporated into the tours as well. A bit of Tudor, of course. The ones I've got coming up in 2020 are Tudor based, Tudor themed. And that was obviously a big Tudor pastime, archery and falconry. So I'm going to try and get those in as well as the fabulous locations and some very, very, very exciting speakers, which I can't tell you about right now, but I will as soon as I possibly can. There's only going to be 60 spaces available next year. So if you're interested, please do make sure you sign up to the newsletter so that you can hear about them, that you get a week before they go on general sale. So it's a week where you can make sure you've got a bit of breathing space. You can think about whether you want to come on. So I will wrap up there because I've kept you for over an hour today. So thank you so much for joining on Instagram, on YouTube. Thank you for catching the catch up if that's how you're seeing this. And thank you to those who are listening on the podcast as well. Marianne says, thank you so much for Tea Time Live. Really enjoyed it. Well, I hope it was a good start to your day. We're now at 5 minutes past 6 in the morning, where you are in Orange County in California, and Colleen, obviously not too far, or well, closer than I am to you. You are both there. So that's fabulous. So thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining. Catch me next week on Instagram Live. I won't be on YouTube. But I will be on location, and I will upload it to YouTube as soon as I can after I finish. So have a great week, everybody. If you can join me on Clubhouse, or just interact with me on Instagram and Facebook as well in the meantime, then happy days. That's good. All right, everyone, take care. I'll see you all very soon. Bye.